And this is our product testing, where we make sure our scoops are scoopable. Here's where we make sure this new take on soft serve is super soft. Bunny.
Сейчас обеспечим Украине успешное контрнаступление, и потом просим Украину Зеленского начать переговоры.
Mr. Martinez, your audio is on and it's being recorded on YouTube.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, morning, Cynthia.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Martinez, this is the stenographer. May I have your first name, sir?
Richard?
Thank you.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Morning all, can you hear me? Thank you. Before we go on the record to actually officially start this hearing, are there any matters to address?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, if I may,
Gacko.
I was going to have Mr. Ryan Friedman run the show for staff this morning at this public hearing, if that's all right with you.
That's perfectly fine, Mr. Friedman. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Friedman, nice to meet you, sir.
Thank you, you as well.
Take this off. There we go. All right. Then, morning, Ms. Hoyman. Ms. Hoyman, are you ready to go?
Good morning, and yes, sir, I am.
Thank you. All right. Let's go on the record then. This matter before the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission will please come to order. This is the time and place set for the evidentiary hearing in the matter of the joint application of New Mexico Water Service Company and Monterey Water Company for approval of New Mexico Water's proposed acquisition of the assets of Monterey Water Company and for an amended certificate of public convenience and necessity, or CCN, to operate Monterey Water's utility facilities. This matter is docketed as case number 23-00026-UT. Good morning. My name is Anthony Medeiros. I'm the hearing examiner designated by the commission to preside over this case and issue a recommended decision on the merits of the joint application. With me for this hearing, which is being conducted over the Zoom video conference platform and streamed over the commission's YouTube channel, is Commissioner Patrick O'Connell. This hearing is being held in conformity with the procedural order and notice issued to customers in this case on February 15, 2023. According to the affidavit of mailing filed in the record by New Mexico Water on February 24, 2023, the notice to customers was mailed by first-class mail to each of the Monterey Water System's 384 ratepayers on February 16, 2023. Actually, that date is wrong on the procedural order. Oh, wait, that's right. That was right. The affidavit of mailing was on February 24, 2023, but the mailing was before that, a week before that, on February 16, 2023. We'll begin today with the appearances of counsel for the parties, starting with the applicant. Who appears for New Mexico Water?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Maria O'Brien, counsel for New Mexico Water Service Company.
Good morning, Ms. O'Brien. And my understanding is that the joint applicant, Monterey Water, is not represented by counsel in this case. Is that correct?
Yes, I was going to address that as a preliminary matter after appearances. That's correct. Monterey Water is not represented by counsel, and the staff and the hearing examiner, we've communicated, and as a preliminary matter would request that the direct testimony of Larry Cade, the president of Monterey Water, which has been filed in this case with the application, be entered into the record without Mr. Cade's appearance.
Yeah, I thank you, Ms. O'Brien. I understand that, but there's a difference between being represented and being the witness in the case. And so we'll get to
yes. Okay. I understand that. I just wasn't sure what you wanted me to queue up at that point. That's correct. Okay. So yes, that is correct. There is Monterey Water. It does not have counsel in this case.
Okay. There were also no interveners in the proceeding. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So who appears for the utility division staff?
Ryan Friedman on behalf of utility division staff, and then also John Bagaco's here. I'll let him.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Friedman. Thank you, Mr. Bagaco. Now, getting to that preliminary matter that I wanted to separate the representation issue from the actual evidence that's being presented on behalf of Monterey Water Let's discuss that first preliminary matter. Ms. O'Brien?
Yes, Mr. Hearing Examiner, as I prematurely stated just a bit ago, New Mexico Water, Monterey Water, and staff, we've communicated and have communicated to the hearing examiner, and New Mexico Water would request that the direct testimony of Larry Cade, which was filed in this matter with the joint application, that direct testimony of Mr. Cade be entered into the record, but that Mr. Cade be excused from testifying today. And again, I understand that staff is in agreement with this approach, and that Mr. Cade, Mr. Cade's testimony, direct testimony that we're requesting be entered without him testifying, has been marked as New Mexico Water Exhibit 4 and should be in the Dropbox.
Mr. Friedman, any objection to excusing Mr. Cade and admitting his testimony as New Mexico Water Exhibit 4?
No objection.
Okay. Thank you. With that, New Mexico Water Exhibit 4 is admitted into evidence, and Mr. Cade is excused from attending this proceeding and testifying on that testimony. Are there any other preliminary matters?
Not from
Right.
New Mexico Water.
Staff?
No,
No.
not from staff.
All right. Ordinarily, this is the stage in this type of proceeding where we would take public comment, but Ms. Anna Kippenbrock, our legal assistant, has informed me that pursuant to the procedure order and notice to customers that listed her as a contact for people wishing to register for public comment, that there were no interested persons not affiliated with any party that wished to provide oral argument at the beginning of this hearing. However, interested persons viewing this hearing via the live YouTube stream should note that, as reflected in the procedure order and notice, written comments may be submitted before the commission takes final action in this case by sending the comment, which should reference NMPRC case number 23-00026-UT to prc.records@state.nm.us. Very well, then, with that, let's proceed to the presentation of evidence pursuant to 1.2.233B NMAC. The order of presentation and receipt of evidence is as follows. The burden of going forward with the evidence and proving the merits of the relief requested in the application in accord with governing legal standards by a preponderance of the evidence is with the applicants, New Mexico Water and Monterey Water. Their presentation evidence will be followed by staff's 2 witnesses. Consequently, Ms. O'Brien, would you please present your witness?
Yes, Mr. Hearing Examiner, New Mexico Water calls General Manager for New Mexico Water Service Company, Cynthia Apodaca. And I would note, Mr. Hearing Examiner, if it's amenable to you, I spoke to staff and will present Ms. Apodaca both her direct and rebuttal, as opposed to having her rebuttal after staff.
That's fine. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Ms. Apodaca, would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Just as a preliminary matter, I assumed based on the email correspondence from you, Mr. Hearing Examiner, the court reporter does have the access to the marked exhibits in the Dropbox.
That's correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure we are all good there. Okay. Good morning, Ms. Apodaca.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name, title, and business address for the record?
Yes, my name is Cynthia Apodaca, and I am the General Manager for New Mexico Water Service. Our primary business address, 401 Horner Street, Rio Communities, New Mexico, 87002.
Thank you. Ms. Apodaca, I'd like you first to address what's been marked as New Mexico Water Exhibit number 1. Do you have a copy of New Mexico Water Exhibit number 1 in front of you?
I do.
And what is New Mexico Water? What has been marked as New Mexico Water Exhibit 1?
I apologize. I don't have the marked exhibits. I have the filed ones. So
Okay.
I'm not sure what exhibit 1 is.
Okay. Yes, Exhibit 1 has been marked, and it's Monterey Water and New Mexico Water Service Company joint application in this case for various approvals.
Okay, I've got that in front of me.
Okay. And are you familiar with the joint application, New Mexico Water and Monterey Water, marked as New Mexico Water Exhibit 1?
I am.
And did you participate in the preparation and the filing of New Mexico Water Exhibit 1?
Yes, I did.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I'd like to move for the admission of New Mexico Water Exhibit 1, the joint application in this matter.
Any objection? New
No
Mexico
objection.
Water 1. New Mexico Water 1 is admitted.
Thank you. Ms. Apodaca, I'd like to now turn to what has been marked as New Mexico Water Exhibit number 2, and that is the direct testimony of Cynthia Apodaca. Do you have that in front of you?
I do.
Okay. And did you participate in the preparation and the filing of New Mexico Water Exhibit 2?
Yes, I did.
And with that direct testimony filed in support of the joint application New Mexico Water Exhibit 1 in this matter? So was your direct testimony, Ms. Apodaca, filed in support of the joint application in this matter?
Yes.
Do you have any corrections to your direct testimony today?
I do not.
If I asked you the questions in your direct testimony today, would your answers be the same as set forth in New Mexico Water Exhibit 2?
Yes, they would.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I'd like to move for the admission of New Mexico Water Exhibit 2.
Mr. Friedman, any objection?
No objection.
Thank you. New Mexico Water Exhibit 2 is admitted.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Ms. Apodaca, I'd like to now move to what's been marked as New Mexico Water Exhibit 3. And New Mexico Water Exhibit 3 is the rebuttal testimony of Cynthia Apodaca, your rebuttal testimony in this matter. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Did you participate in the preparation and the filing of your rebuttal testimony in this matter, New Mexico Water Exhibit 4?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any corrections to your rebuttal testimony today?
No.
If I asked you the questions in your rebuttal testimony today, would your answers be the same as set forth in New Mexico Water Exhibit 3?
Yes, they would.
Okay. Mr. Hearing Examiner, I would move for the admission of New Mexico Water Exhibit 3.
Any objection, Mr. Friedman?
No objections.
New Mexico Water 3 is admitted as well.
At this time, Mr. Hearing Examiner, I have no further questions of Ms. Apodaca and turn the witness to staff for questions.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Mr. Friedman,
Staff has one, possibly two questions.
please proceed.
Ms. Apodaca, New Mexico Water previously had indicated they were expecting to file a rate increase for the Rio rate district in the first quarter of 2023. Has that been filed yet?
Yes, so we did file our notice of intent to do a rate adjustment. We have noticed the customers that went out on March 31st. So we intend to file the new advice notice and the rates on June 2nd and with the effective date of July 3rd. So we're in the middle of that filing process.
Okay, thank you very much. That is all staff had.
Thank you, Mr. Friedman. Mr. O'Connell, do you have any questions at this point, or would you like to wait until after I ask my questions? It's up to the commissioner, though.
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. I don't have any questions at this point.
All right. Thank you, sir. Well, good morning, Ms. Apodaca. Thank you for being with us. I guess I'll start with Mr. Friedman's question. It's one that I had as well regarding the proposed rate increase. Is it still, according to Ms. Leiva Tercero's testimony, that rate increase was approximate 8% proposed rate increase at that time? Is that still the case?
Yes.
And have you done a rate comparison analysis for the Monterey water customers who will be coming over to the Rio system, to the New Mexico water system?
We have not run the numbers with the 8% increase.
For any customers or for the Monterey water customers?
For the Monterey.
Okay. But you did do a rate comparison for purposes of this proceeding, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I think I'll come back to it later because it flows better in my questioning, which is a little bit later in your testimony regarding the staggered steps for integrating the customers. And so we may come back. We will come back to that. In fact, be prepared for potentially a bench request that will be required regarding an updated rate comparison for the Monterey water customers, since that rate filing is in process of occurring. So I just want to flag that, but I think it's better for me to get to it later in my questioning because, as I said, that comes up later in your rebuttal, I think, as a matter of fact. So in the meantime, let's talk a little bit about the proposed acquisition. I didn't see, and I may have missed it, was there an estimated closing date for this acquisition, for the transfer of the assets from Monterey Water to New Mexico Water?
So we don't have an estimated closing date, but the closing is conditioned upon PRC approval and also Office of State Engineer approval.
Which one do you anticipate? The OSE, Office of State Engineer process, where is that?
So we've received preliminary approval, and so final approval should be forthcoming. I don't have a time frame on that. I would anticipate that we would get an NPRC approval before the final approval from OSC.
Is the Office of State Engineer process requiring an evidentiary hearing like this, or is it more of a paper review?
A paper review.
So, okay. And let's look at page 11 of your direct testimony, just to get this out of the way. On line 9, you testify that there's a regarding the Office of State Engineer file. On line 9, you have file number RG-0811. But throughout the testimony and then in the the acquisition documents, the contract, the reference is to water file RG 1811 et al. Is that the 0811 a typo? On page 11, line 9 of your direct testimony?
Yes, that would be a typo.
Okay, so that, just for the record, you don't need to interlineate and change what's in the record, what's already been admitted, but just for the record, should be noted that whenever you're referring to the engineer OSE file number, it's the references to RG-1811. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So let's say that the commission's approval of this acquisition occurs, say in June. Do you have a ballpark idea about when this acquisition, the closing, might occur? Assuming, yeah, I understand that we can't control here for the OSE process, but with regard to, if everything lines up and happens as you hope it does, when were you hoping that, or thinking that this acquisition the closing might happen?
I would expect the closing to occur within 30 days.
And looking at the last case where you acquired the Valencia system, how did that closing happen? Did it happen within that time frame, or did it take longer?
No, it did happen within that time frame.
And that time frame was, what did you say?
Less than 30 days from.
Less, okay. So we're talking from final. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Okay, so from final commission approval was approximately 30 days for the closing. Okay, but in this case, the wrinkle is the OSE approval that you need, right?
That's correct.
Are they waiting on? Do you know if they're waiting over in that agency for the commission action in this case before they sign off?
I don't believe that to be the case.
Okay. Was there a similar process in the Valencia proceeding?
There was not, because we didn't have to apply for supplemental points of diversion in that case.
Okay, let me switch a little bit to a different question. Why are you acquiring? Why is New Mexico Water, which is a very large company, part of a very large company, acquiring this very small system?
Well, New Mexico Water is in the business, obviously, of running water and wastewater systems. We want to grow. This particular system is located right next to our core service area. It makes sense that we would, add these almost 400 customers to our system. That's a good growth for us. There is going to be some costs associated with getting that system interconnected with the Rio system, but that's reflected in the purchase price.
And yet, my understanding is you won't be acquiring Mr. Cade's water rights. Is that right?
That's correct.
And but still, the growth in customer base and this acquisition is a sufficient interest for New Mexico Water to acquire the system without the water rights, because typically my understanding is that historically that larger water companies are looking to acquire water rights in regions. That's the more valuable asset, isn't it?
I mean, for New Mexico Water, the addition of 400 customers, is valuable in and of itself. Plus, it puts downward pressure on rates for the existing customers. The water rights are as valuable as they are valued in rate base to a utility companies such as New Mexico Water. So we already have sufficient water rights to serve these 400 customers. So it makes sense to acquire them.
Okay. Did you seek to acquire the water rights from Mr. Cade?
Initially, yes.
And did he give you a reason why he didn't want to dispose of them or transfer them?
They were not a utility asset, as you know, from what I understood, and
Okay.
he was not interested in selling them.
Okay. So let's look at page 5 of your direct testimony. And I want to compare and contrast to the current operation of New Mexico Water, which you indicated, Mr. Cade indicates in his testimony, New Mexico Water Exhibit 4, that Monterey Water only has one worker or one employee to service the system. Is that right?
To my understanding, Monterey has a part-time water operator and a full-time office manager. There is not a physical office per se, but there's a person that handles customer service and billing and customer inquiries.
And in comparison, New Mexico Water has 5 separate systems right now in New Mexico, correct?
Correct.
How many employees does New Mexico Water have?
We have 20 employees.
And of those, how many are licensed technicians?
I'm gonna, off the top of my head, I'm gonna say 10.
And what are they licensed in typically?
They're licensed in water system operations,
Okay.
and wastewater system operation, or both.
But in this case, all you're acquiring would be operating is the water system, right? It's not wastewater,
That's
or is
correct.
it wastewater? Just
No.
just go ahead and answer. Just
Septic, they're all on septic tanks. There's no wastewater service there.
oh, I see. Okay. And so that's up to the individual customer on with the septics to have those systems maintained, correct?
That's correct.
So in the New Mexico water system, I'm assuming that all 5 systems have separate dedicated operators.
Yes, they do.
And so you'd have someone up in Farmington that would be local who could attend to the needs of the system up there,
Yes.
right? And which system, that was one that you acquired as well, correct?
Yes, that's our Morningstar system, previously AV Water.
And so you have a technician up there and a system operator up there.
We have 3 operators there.
Is it similar at Elephant Butte?
We have 2 operators in Elephant Butte.
And just to be clear, because it's in the testimony, but since we've been talking about it, the 5 systems that New Mexico Water owns and operates are they're the, it's the Rio del Oro or Rio Communities and Rio del Oro system, correct? That's one of them.
Yes,
And the Cypress Garden system is part of that.
yes,
And that's actually a water and wastewater operation, correct?
yes.
And is that the largest system that New Mexico Water operates?
The Rio Communities and Rio del Oro systems combined together are the largest.
Okay. And I'm just looking at page 5 of your testimony. Then you acquired the former national utility, you being New Mexico Water, acquired the former national utility company that served Meadow Lake and Elephant Butte areas. And that's a water system only operation with approximately 1,948 water customers. Is that right?
Yes,
And when you talk about water customers, you're talking about connections, right? Ratepayers connections, not individuals served, correct?
it's not population, it's service connections.
Yeah, okay. And then we were talking about the Valencia Mesa water system that you acquired. That's actually part of Meadow Lake. That was only adding 85 customers, correct?
That's correct.
And you also have then, I guess the fourth system is the Sandia Knolls Juan Tomas subdivisions.
Yes,
And that's 426 water connections or water customers.
correct.
And is Indian Hills water system part of that, or is it a separate system?
Separate.
And then finally, you have the AV Water Company that you acquired in San Juan County in 2022. And that serves 1,922 customers.
That's
Correct.
correct.
Okay. I asked this as background just to indicate that the difference for different reasons. So now I want to explore your expertise and apply it to the company, the assets and the facilities that you're acquiring. And that's the Monterey water system. In your opinion, are the customers there receiving safe and adequate service now?
In my opinion, they're receiving safe and adequate service.
Are they receiving service on a par with the service that New Mexico Water will or would provide?
No.
Why not?
There's billing issues, there's customer service issues. There have been a variety of sampling issues stemming from not having a full-time operator on site. There is no customer service office that the customers can go to. I don't believe that they have any options for bill payment online or a way for customers to access their accounts online. So there's several things that we would be bringing to the customers.
In fact, on page 9 of your testimony, and then in Mr. Cade's testimony, he has a corrective action plan that addresses the major system deficiencies identified in a October 24, 2022 New Mexico Environment Department sanitary survey. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the sanitary survey is attached to your direct testimony as CA-2.
That's correct.
And then cross-referencing to Mr. Cade's testimony, he has a filled out in handwriting corrective action plan, which is Cade Exhibit LC-1, right?
Yes.
The system deficiencies been fully remedied since you filed and Mr. Cade filed his testimony?
To my knowledge, everything has been corrected with the exception of the storage tank inspections. The inspection has been performed and Monterey Water is waiting for the final report. So it's in process. So with that final report, then it will be complete.
Just so everybody can see what we're talking about, I'm going to try and put that screen share that corrective action plan and just discuss it with you very quickly here, if that's okay. Let me do that. Do you see the corrective action plan here? Whoops. There.
Yes.
Can you see it? Okay.
Yes.
So there are actually 4 storage tanks there listed under the third item, 006M, correct?
Yes.
But that it said that there was an expected date of completion according to the handwriting of November 17, 2022, but that hasn't happened yet, apparently.
That's correct. The inspection has been completed and it was not completed by November 17th, 2022. It's my understanding it was just recently completed. And again, waiting on the final report from that inspection.
And who did the inspection?
I don't know. We didn't contract for it.
But it would have had to have been a licensed contractor or
Yes.
licensed.
Yeah, it would have to be somebody that NMED would accept.
Is this something that you could do in-house if you were required to take corrective action on one of your facilities, yours being New Mexico Water?
I suppose you could do it in-house.
Or is that an ethical issue, or is that a requirement that it be an independent contractor?
No, I think there are other utilities that do their own storage tank inspections.
Have you had to do these types of inspections on your facilities?
Yes.
Is this a routine issue, or is this something that comes up because of a violation that is flagged by the Drinking Water Bureau?
I mean,
New Mexico.
That could happen, but also as part of routine maintenance.
You would hope that routine maintenance, you would fix these problems before they're flagged as violations, correct?
Right.
So, but the cement pad, the inadequate overflow, and the final 003A inadequate sample plan does not include DBP sampling. They've all been rectified or completed.
Yes.
What is DBP sampling?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that.
Okay, I've got that off screen, hopefully now. So let's go back to your testimony. Okay, so just for the record, looking at your CA-2, it appears that DBP stands for disinfection residuals and disinfection byproducts, DBP.
It has to do with chlorine residuals.
Chlorine residuals. That's, for the record, that's attachment CA-2 to your direct testimony, page 8 of 11. So let me now turn to a couple of the, well, let me turn to what's been marked as Commission Exhibit 1. And I'm going to put that on screen now. And this is something that I provided, I included, uploaded to Dropbox, and provided to the parties and gave the parties notice that I was going to use this during the hearing. Do you see what's on the screen now, Commission Exhibit 1?
Yes.
And that's a October 4, 2021 news release from the Environment Department entitled Environment Department Confirms Boil Water Advisory Required for Monterey Water Company in Valencia County. 1,208 users are urged to boil water prior to drinking. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Ms. Apodaca, this isn't something that is a surprise to you from this hearing examiner. In fact, do you recall addressing this issue during the pre-hearing conference?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And I asked you then, when it says 1,208 users, and I asked you again today, that's the population of the Monterey mobile home estates, and the few users or customers outside the mobile home park. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's not the 384 connections. That's just the folks living out there.
Right. It's population.
So apparently what happened here was Monterey Water Company was required to issue the advisory on October 2, 2021, after an E. coli contamination was detected in routine drinking water samples from the water systems distribution system. Is that right?
Yes.
How would E. coli get into the system? Do you know?
I mean, it could be, I guess, a variety of ways. I mean, it's if I think one of the corrective actions was to put filters and things on some of the openings, and
what openings?
In the distribution system, if there's an overflow or it needed to be covered, and so that maybe rodents or rabbits or something couldn't go in and die in there and contaminate.
And as a matter of fact, that was one of the corrective actions that we. Let me take that off share screen now. Hopefully it's off now. In fact, for housekeeping, I did see something, a reference to that there were caps or filters and things. And
there were screens that needed to be put on.
So that might be related to this outbreak, right?
It's possible.
But looking at the NMA and the Drinking Water Bureau, or the New Mexico Environment Department, I think there was a subsequent press release that this E. coli outbreak, that subsequent testing showed that the E. coli outbreak was remediated and is no longer an issue. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
But that wasn't the first E. coli outbreak, though, on the Monterey Water Company system, was it?
No. It was-
Okay, and before, okay, excuse me, Ms. Apodaca, just a second. Before I forget, Ms. O'Brien, Mr. Friedman, is there any objection to admitting Commission Exhibit 1?
No objection.
No objection.
Commission Exhibit 1 is admitted. Now I want to look at the second Commission exhibit. And that is, and let me describe it for you, Ms. Apodaca. Do you have that exhibit?
I do.
And does that look familiar to you?
No, I have not seen the report, but I have heard about the number of violations, but I have not seen this exact report until you filed it.
And this is a water system, what is it called? A drinking water watch document that has a list of violations going back to April 10, 1992 on page 9 of 9. It's a table. It looks like it's an Excel spreadsheet. And it's 9 pages long. And it has a long list of what they call violations. So what the New Mexico DWB Drinking Water Bureau calls it is a list of, I guess, official list of violations, or to put it colloquially, a rap sheet.
Mm-hmm.
So it has, for instance, and I guess I'll put it on screen too, so everybody can see what Commission Exhibit 2 looks like. Let me move it to make it larger so it's single page, because I have it on 2 pages. And I'm going to expand it, and then I'm going to hopefully share it here with everyone. Is it on screen now?
Yes.
And you see it shows the the very first item there, violation number 502922 for 2022 is the E. coli outbreak or contamination. But then if you look down toward the bottom of the page, it shows 2015 502912 dated November 17, 2014. There's an E. coli contamination reported there, correct?
Yes.
And these coliform, is that also a serious contamination? Coliform TCR?
Believe it's a secondary.
Secondary?
So I am a chemist or water quality expert. So I probably would not be able to answer a lot of questions on the contaminants.
Well, look at 1995, 1996.
Mm-hmm.
There's chloridane. Chloridane is a banned substance, isn't it? It's a very cancer. My understanding is. Do you know anything about chloridane?
I don't.
That was a pesticide.
A lot of these. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, a lot of these that I'm seeing here are not contaminants that I've ever even come across in my 28 years.
Right. Chloridane is something you don't want to see anywhere near anybody, let alone in a water system. I'm not testifying there. It's just I'm showing what my understanding is to be, and what the commission could take administrative notice of is a banned substance that folks used to use as a pesticide. But there is at least one other E. coli contamination on here. I think there were 3 in total. I could look it up, but anyway. So, Ms. O'Brien, Mr. Friedman, is there any objection to admitting Commission Exhibit 2, which was also, this is also an official document of the Drinking Water Bureau. Is there any objection to admitting Commission Exhibit 2?
No objection.
No objection.
Commission Exhibit 2 is admitted. So I'm going to leave it on screen for a second. Ms. Apodaca, you said that you're not, do you, to ask an indiscreet question, do your water companies, do your water systems have rap sheets like this?
Well, New Mexico Water does not. I don't know what the rap sheets look like from the other companies that we acquired in the past. But no, I would say this is a lot.
But you didn't look this up in doing your due diligence to see that this is what this is the history of the company?
I mean, I didn't personally, but the water quality department absolutely did. And I guess what I would say is that we don't feel like the well is a source of the problem. The tanks are not going to be the long-term solution to provide water to these customers under our ownership. And
in fact, what is your plan there?
So I believe it's about 800 yards away from our main. So we do plan to do an interconnect and a tie-in, and their well would be used as simply as a backup. But the long-term solution is to extend the service from our Rio del Oro system,
which is just 800 yards away.
Yes.
From your system. But when is that planned? I know from your testimony, but go ahead.
Yeah, within 2 years, that is planned.
So you see up there, I left Commission Exhibit 2 up on share screen for a second because you see the water system number, NM 3509032. That's the Monterey Water Company water system number. So your water systems all have numbers like that, right?
Yes.
Do your water systems have lists of individual if the commission went and looked this up, or anybody did at the I guess it's the Drinking Water Bureau website where I found this. What would we find? Would we find a list of violations 9 pages long,
no,
or 1 page long, or is there any?
No, I mean, you would probably find some procedural violations. I can recall one back T hit in one of our systems in the last couple of years.
What is that you said, back T? Bacteria?
Yes.
Hit? So,
but no, it would not look anything like this.
We can't expect perfection. Things just happen, right, with systems.
Yeah, I mean,
the
violations can stem, from procedural, where you didn't fill out a chain of custody form correctly, to you got a hit on a contaminant, to you didn't file the proper paperwork, you didn't request an extension of time. So yeah, I mean, those things can happen, and particularly when you don't have dedicated staff running the show.
Right, and that's why I started the discussion with what staff you have to oversee the system, your systems. You would hope that by having dedicated staff, system operators who are licensed, one of the purposes of that is so you don't end up with a rap sheet like this. And I know rap sheet is a colloquial term that doesn't, it's just
Fitting.
Right. But you want to avoid having a list like this, obviously, because it's what it connotes is that you have potentially an unsafe system or a history of problems that call into question the safety of the drinking water for the customers, for the citizens of New Mexico, at least in this area, correct?
Yes.
This is would you characterize this a troubling list, a serious list of violations?
Just the sheer number? Yes, I would.
Okay. So Commission Exhibits 1 and 2 have been admitted. Now I will stop belaboring this that list. Thank you for going through that with me. Hopefully we're off share screen now and back. Let's go back to your testimony. Are you okay, Ms. Apodaca? Do you need a break or?
No.
Are you all right? Okay.
I'm fine. Just get through.
Thank you. So we talked about the interconnection, and you talk about that on page 8 of your direct testimony, within 1 to 2 years of the acquisition. So if, let's just say, ballpark, the closing is in July of 2023, when will the customers from the Monterey system be transitioned over to the New Mexico water system? It's
Physically?
July. Yes, July. Is it July 2024? Would it be?
I can tell you that we have it in our budget to do it in 2024.
Okay.
In our capital
And,
budget.
according to, and I think staff endorsed this, there's a year, at a minimum, a year transition, right?
That's correct.
For all the customers. Now, I know there's a subset of customers we're going to talk about whose rates would see an increase, about 43. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But just generally speaking, there's going to be a transition from, and it's a 1-year transition that I think Ms. Labor Tercedo said that staff would have asked for, but New Mexico Water proposed.
Correct.
Right?
And can I just elaborate a little bit on that? So the transition period really relates to the rates, just to the rates.
Okay. And I don't know, this is the reason we're going to get to an updated rate comparison, because of the rate filing has been made, correct? You filed the advice notice.
We have not filed the advice notice yet. So we're in the process. We have noticed the customers. And now we're in that waiting period from the time you notice the customers to when you file the advice notice.
And but when you notice the customers, did you provide them a rate comparison?
Yes.
Okay. And so it won't be that hard to adapt that rate comparison and include the New Mexico water customers if I ask a bench request for that.
To include the Monterey customers?
Yes.
Yeah, not difficult at all.
Okay. Before I do that, though, I want to ask about getting back to water rights and adequate water to serve all your customers in the Rio system or the Rio del Oro system. On page 12, your testimony indicates, starting on line 11, that the current demand for Monterey water customers is approximately 95 acre feet per annum per year. New Mexico Water has approximately 1,875 acre feet per annum of available water rights, of which 1,165 acre feet per year is currently being used to satisfy demands of existing customers and current commitments under that engineer file RG 1811. You testify then on page line 14, going to line 16, the sentence is, this leaves, and I'm quoting now, 710 acre feet per annum, more than sufficient to 1, meet Monterey water demands, 2, allow for a 10% reserve, and 3, allow for additional growth. That's your testimony there on page 12, right?
Yes.
Now, the 10% reserve, what is that figure based on? Is that an industry standard? Is that a company requirement? What is that 10% reserve margin based on?
The 10% reserve is, as far as I can remember, came up in another case several years ago, and it was proposed by staff that we always allow a buffer of 10 to 15%. So it would be, you take your current demand and then add 10% to that as a buffer or reserve.
Okay, so that's actually something that in the iterative process of commission regulation, that 10% reserve margin was something that probably was proposed by staff in an earlier proceeding. And you've agreed to apply it to this system. Did you apply it to the 85 customers of Valencia too? I didn't look back at that, but is there a 10% reserve margin there as well?
Yes, and we did get the water rights for that system.
Okay. I guess it's time now to move to your rebuttal testimony. Let's see. So we're talking about we're actually addressing in your rebuttal testimony the New Mexico Waters agreement to the specific requirements that are set out in Ms. Labor Tercero's testimony, which is one of which is to extend the transition period from 3 years to 4 years. Is that right?
That's correct. If it's needed.
Okay, and that's summarized on, I think I'm not sure if your rebuttal testimony is page numbered, but it would be the second page of text where you're asked the question, please refresh our recollection regarding what New Mexico Water proposed relating to rates. And right, so, okay, so there it's in the first year following closing, and that's why I wanted to kind of set a rough idea for the closing date. Maintain the water structure for all customers during the first year, right?
Correct.
Then in the second year, all Monterey Water customers except the 43 that would see significant rate increases. And those are, and we'll get to it because I'll bring up the table in the notice, the procedure order. I'll describe that in a little bit detail later. So the initial plan was in the second year, all but the 43 customers using with low consumption, but a lower fixed charge than what New Mexico Water has right now for the Rio de Oro system. Those customers wouldn't be brought in, but all but those 43 would be brought over under your original plan, right?
They would be brought over in 2 phases, those 43 customers.
Okay, that's your original plan.
Yes.
Okay, and but then in the third step there on that in your rebuttal testimony is that the 43 customers with less than or equal to 2,000 gallons monthly are those who would have seen rates increase by 50% of the increase in the base rate and 100% of New Mexico Water's 2-tiered usage or volumetric rates would be brought under the New Mexico rate structure in the third year following acquisition, right?
Right.
And so what did Ms. Laberter propose and you agreed to?
So she proposed that given that we are in the middle of doing an 8% rate increase, if that would affect some customers such that we would need a third year to transition them in, that we do that. And we agreed to do that.
An additional year. So
An additional year. Right.
So we're talking about now a 4-year transitional process as opposed to a 3-year, correct?
Yes.
If the commission approves this. So I'm going to pull up the reason I'm pulling up the rate comparison from the procedure order is in part because it's based on your original chart that was attached to your direct testimony. Let's see, specifically what you had originally, and then we revised, if you recall, is actually attachment CA-3 to your direct testimony. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what was issued by me and included in the notice, and I'm going to put it on share screen now. I have to increase it because it'll look too small if I don't manipulate it and make it large here. So what I'm going to put on share screen is the notice to customers that was issued back in February. It's page 3 and page 3 of the notice. Let's see. Okay, I've got it. I think large enough that we can hopefully all see it on the share screen. Here, do you see it now?
Yes.
Oh, I moved the cursor, sorry. Okay, here it is. And so this shows what we were talking about, where you have those customers. You see that down there in the second part of the table. Those are the customers that would see the big increase are the ones that are low usage customers. And that's because New Mexico Water has a significantly higher customer charge or base charge than Monterey. Monterey has a $7.49 per month charge, and New Mexico Water has, for the Rio system, a $19.32 base charge. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But the volumetric or usage quantity rates are significantly lower for New Mexico water, at least the current ones. That $1.92 for the first 8,000 gallons, and then a higher usage rate for over 8,000 gallons per 1,000 gallons. That's $2.59, whereas Monterey waters are flat at $3.68 at whatever consumption level. Correct?
That's correct.
So under the current rates, and this is what the Monterey water customers were provided, this chart as part of the notice, customers above consuming more than 2,000 gallons would see a decrease off their current bills, correct?
That's correct.
I'm curious, and this goes to the bench request. What is the proposal for in that column, New Mexico water, 1932, 192, 259? What are the new numbers that you're proposing there?
So I have this spreadsheet up, the one that you're sharing the screen with, and just plugging in the 8%, the 1932 would become 2087, and the $1.92 would become 207, and the 259 would become 280.
So if you can prepare for the commission in response to bench request number 1, a rate comparison that includes the impact on the Monterey water customers, all of the customers who are going to be transitioning over, obviously, to the New Mexico water company system. You could prepare a rate impact analysis that will show the impact of the new proposed rates, the 8% rate increase. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And just what do you expect it will show? Do you expect it'll show a rate decrease still for all customers, but those 43 customers that have low usage rates? Do you think that New Mexico water, that Monterey water customers above 2,000 gallons in usage will still show somewhat of a rate decrease?
So the rate decrease would begin for customers at the 9,000 gallon level, or here on with existing rates, it would be at the 7,000 gallon level.
Can you rephrase that? You're saying, so with the new proposal, okay, I see that. Yeah, but the difference, at 6,000 now, currently at 6,000, there's a 4% difference. There's a $1.27 increase on the proposed monthly bill at 6,000 gallons, correct?
Yes.
And that's 30 customers. Just based off just ballparking, do you think that this will change considerably? I mean, obviously I've asked for the bench request, the figures will show what they show, but just as a preview of coming attractions, what do you think the impact will be?
Well, I mean, I can tell you, I've plugged those numbers into my spreadsheet, and so the decrease in monthly rates would occur for those customers at 9,000 gallons a month instead of 7,000. But
Okay.
but the usage levels remain the same at 1,000 and 2,000 gallons per month for those people that would experience a greater than 50% increase. So for instance,
So,
nobody else is going to fall into the greater than 50% category because of that 8% increase.
okay, let's focus on that 6,000 gallon customer. Under the new rates, what would the new bill look like?
The new rates would be $33.29.
Versus 29.57 now.
Yes,
And how about at 7,000?
7,000. The new bill would be 35.36.
35.36. So that's the breaking point there where we start to see an increase. And then 8,000, just the last one, could you?
8,000 is 37.43. That's a 50 cent increase.
Okay, because they're at 36.93 on their total current monthly bill now, correct?
Yes,
And is this this is an average bill, and seasonally you see, do you expect to see differences for these customers? Or this is an average 12-month average?
it's a pretty low water usage area.
Because of the mobile home.
Yeah, and just
Being mobile.
the landscape, there's not very much landscaping.
Okay. So, Ms. Apodaca, if and I'm making this request for bench request number 1, based on the new rate proposal that New Mexico Water is, the advice notice it's about to file. You've already provided the notice to the New Mexico Water customers. And let me ask you, before I officially make the bench request, the Monterey Water customers have not been notified of this yet, have they?
No, they have not.
Okay. Do you have, and we're going to talk about that too, your communication with your new customers, assuming that the acquisition is approved by the commission. You'll be having a dialogue with them, and you'd be providing them this sort of information, I'm assuming?
Yes, so the information we would provide them would be what was approved in this case and how their rates would, presumably remain the same for a year, and then how they would be stepped up.
And since those customers have already seen this table, I'd imagine you might be providing them the bench request table as well. Rate comparison, right?
Yes.
Okay, so when might you be able to prepare? It sounds like it shouldn't take that long. You've already been doing it on the fly, apparently. When might you be able to file that, a rate comparison?
Today.
Today?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll make it tomorrow,
Okay.
Friday, the 28th.
I'm off tomorrow, so it has to be today.
All right. Well, then, yeah. Well, no later than.
Yeah.
No later than tomorrow. I know you're very prompt. You got the notice out immediately after I sent it to you in Word. I appreciate that. Very diligent. So that rate comparison then will include will include the impact of the proposed increase that New Mexico Water has it's for the Rio district, right? That's the rate increase.
Correct.
And I'm just curious, do you have other rate increases in the work? I mean, actually before the commission for your other water systems, or is it just Rio right now?
No, but there are others. Yeah. It's not every system, but there are others. We didn't file one in Sandy and Knowles, and we didn't file one for Morningstar.
Okay. And why is that?
Morningstar is still under their temporary 1-year rates, and we still need to review, the first year of ownership and see what we need to do there. And for Sandy and Knowles, they just simply didn't require an increase at this time.
So, thank you. And so we'll have a rate comparison, and in this case, because we're talking about a rate increase, I'm not going to require a preview of post-hearing submissions. I'm not going to require any post-hearing submissions in terms of briefs or proposed recommended decision, but I am going to require bench request number 1, which is the rate comparison. And then I would like staff to actually provide a formal, it's not an optional response, it's an actual response that you've reviewed the rate comparison, and then staff should provide its assessment of the rate comparison in a response. Mr. Friedman, assuming that you and staff has the rate comparison by tomorrow, do you think you could provide a response within a week? Or do you
Alicia,
think you need long? Yes, go ahead, Ms. Tercera, Leba Tercera.
Should be fine for staff.
then I will echo her. Yes, it should be fine.
All right.
I just wanted to make
So-
sure before giving you a green light.
All right,
Mr.
so
Mr. Hughes, just a really quick procedural question. So, and just in terms of filing and clarity of the record, will you be issuing a written bench request, or should we be responding to this as an oral bench request at these proceedings when we file?
this qualifies as an oral bench request.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Is it? You'd probably get it filed before I could issue the bench request.
Well,
It sounds
that's what I
like.
was saying. I just wanted to make sure that what you were thinking, so we didn't have cross filings or confusions.
Well,
on that.
It's a fair question, Ms. O'Brien. I was just joking. But I think I've, having put that rate comparison on screen, and you can see what I want, I don't think I need
Yes.
to describe it in writing. So,
Yes.
and in fact, this is the first time that I've ever had a witness actually developing the response, at least that I know of, as I'm asking for it. So this is remarkably efficient.
Yeah.
But
We know what you want. We'll get.
Okay. So we've thank you. So we've got a new rate impact based comparison based on the new proposed rates with the 8% increase that will be filed no later than April 28th, 2023, and then staff will file an analysis, and it doesn't have to be long, but at least I want something in the record that reflects that staff has reviewed it and staff has provided its opinion about the rate impact. And bear in mind that includes that will take into account the 4-year transition process for the Monterey water customers, and staff's response is due by May 5, 2023. And thank you for agreeing to that. Ms. Apodaca, I want to get back to that transition in your rebuttal that we're talking about, because it's now that we're talking about the increase, that 4-year transition. When Ms. Labor-Tercero was talking about the transition, it wasn't clear to me that she was just applying the extended years to the 43 customers, that it might apply to a different subset of customers. We're seeing an increase. How is that 4-year transition going to work now? Is it still just focused on the 43 customers that we talked about with that usage level that's low, the 2,000, or does it drop a little bit to? Go ahead.
So plugging in the new rates with the 8% increase, it would still be the first 2 lines of 1,000 and 2,000 gallons per month usage that would experience a greater than 50% increase in their monthly bill. And staff had requested that the rate increase to any customer be limited to no greater than 50%. So it would still just affect those usage categories of customers, 43 customers.
Okay,
Now, what is still to be determined is whether how it's the way we're planning to implement the phase in, if that's going to make any one of those 50% for those two classes of customers.
and I was going to ask, as I prefaced at the beginning, I was going to ask about the phase in. How are you phasing in the customers? Is it geographic? Is it how?
So our plan for the phase in would be all of the customers except for the 43 would come onto Rio's rates after the 1 year temporary rate period. And then the 40, all but the ones who would experience a greater than 50% increase. And so in that case, we're talking about 43 customers.
So all but the 43 would see New Mexico water bills in July. Let's assume the closing and the acquisition happens in July 2023. Say July 2024, August 2024. All but those 43 would see New Mexico water bills. Is that right?
That's correct.
And do the New Mexico water bills, do they say Rio del Oro system or Rio system on it, or what do they look like?
I don't think they actually say Rio, or they would still be considered Rio customers, just with a different rate.
But the bills the customer sees is New Mexico Water Service Company, right?
Yes.
Okay. So make sure I'm not forgetting anything before I ask you what I think is my last set of questions. Yeah, I guess my last question goes to, or last set of questions goes to the end of your rebuttal, where, well, I just, let me back up a second. That rate-based filing, you've committed to that, right? Just like you did in the Valencia case, within 1 year.
Correct.
Okay, but now so the last point is staff's recommendation encouraging New Mexico Water to communicate with Monterey Water customers regarding the changes resulting from the acquisition. I touched on this a little already, and that is the Monterey Water customers will be receiving the rate comparison that you're going to be filing as commission bench request, response to bench request number 1. And could you explain how you're going to effectuate or communicate the changes to the Monterey Water customers?
Sure. So normally what we would do is we would send out a welcome letter, and we would let them know that we are now providing their water service. We would talk a little bit, about our company, talk about the rates and how they're going to be transitioned. Another thing that we did with the Morningstar system is we had a little open house for a couple of hours one afternoon, and it was very well attended by the customers. So I would want to do the same thing here. Just have some customers could come in, they could meet us, they could meet our operations people, they could see who's reading their meter, who they're likely to see on a day-to-day basis. And that worked out really well. So I would like to do something like that again.
Okay, so yeah, I encourage you to, in fact, expect it to be part of the recommended decision.
Got it.
So, because I urge you to do that. So, approximately when would you be sending out that welcome letter?
It would be on the day that we close.
Okay. And that welcome letter, would it be a follow-up letter that has the open house invitation, or is it in that welcome letter?
It would probably be, it just depends how efficient we are, but if we could get it set up by then, we'd like to include it there. But what we would probably do is just say, you know, keep your eyes open for an invite to our open house next month.
And then that invite would come in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have a website that customers can go to?
Yes.
And can they pay their bills electronically?
Yes.
And do you have a customer charge for paying by credit card or
there
for
is
your customers?
Yeah, there is I want to say it's 2.5%, but can't remember off the top of my head for using a credit card. I mean, it just depends. If they set up for auto pay, I believe it's not charged. There's a variety of ways.
And if they pay by check, there's no charge.
Correct.
Right. Okay. It's just if they use a credit card or debit card. Right, that there's a 2% or 2.5% or something.
Yeah, and again, if they said sign up for recurring billing, I think that fee is waived. If they pay by phone, there could be a different fee for that. So it just depends on how they pay and how they set up their account.
Will that be included in the welcome letter?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, and I imagine
a big benefit to, one of the big benefits that we'd want to showcase to the customers.
Because I was just going to say, I imagine they currently don't have that opportunity now.
Right.
Okay, great. Well, Ms. Apodaca, that's it for my questioning. That's about all I have right now. Ms. O'Brien, do you have any redirect?
I have no redirect, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Thank you.
Mr. Friedman, I usually don't do this, but if you have any questions on, say, quote unquote recross, do you have anything for Ms. Apodaca?
No, I don't believe you have any questions.
Okay. Ms. Apodaca, thank you very much. I truly appreciate your testimony. You've been a great witness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being tough.
You think that's tough? Oh my goodness, that's scary. Yeah, but thank you. Oh, that's I think we should probably let's just take a 10-minute break. Ms. Wyman, is that good for you? Okay, let's take a 10-minute break. We should be done by noon, but I think we should probably just take a quick break. All right, thank you. Okay, good morning. We're back from our brief morning break in this hearing. And we're about to begin the conclusion of the evidentiary hearing. Mr. Friedman, are you prepared to call your first staff witness?
Yes.
Please do so.
Staff calls Alicia Leyba Tercero.
Ms. Leyba Tercero, would you raise your right hand, ma'am? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, or morning, I guess still, Mr. Cerro. Do you have a copy of your direct testimony filed in this case? It would be marked as Staff's Exhibit 2, or 1, I'm sorry.
Yes, I do.
And would you take just a moment to look it over and make sure it's complete and accurate?
Yes, it is.
Do you have any corrections that you would need to make to this direct testimony?
No.
And if you were asked today at this hearing, the same questions in your direct testimony, would your answers to those questions be the same or would they have changed?
Yes, my answers would be the same.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I move to for the admission of Ms. Alicia Leyba Tercero's direct testimony.
And that's marked as Staff Exhibit 1, Mr. Friedman?
Yes, sir.
Any objection? Hearing no objection, Staff Exhibit 1 is admitted.
And that would, I'll pass the witness.
Ms. O'Brien, any questions for Ms. Leyba Tercero?
I have no questions.
All right, thank you. Ms. Leyba Tercero, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
You heard Ms. Apodaca's testimony. I don't really have anything to ask you in particular about your testimony, except I want to thank you again for your, as usual, thorough testimony. The Commission really appreciates, for instance, among other things, the table that you have on page 11 of your testimony. That provides a useful guide, a very helpful guide, and appreciate the additional requirements that you propose. But you were here online and heard Ms. Apodaca's testimony, correct?
Correct.
Do you have any observations about anything that she testified to?
No, I don't. I think, it sounds like we're in agreement at this point, and I will wait to see the response to the bench request and provide you a response on that.
Okay, and just with response, what I wanted to ask you about is just provide your opinion on whether staff thinks it's a reasonable and in line with what you've seen in this case already. Just whatever observations you have about it would be helpful.
Yes, will do.
Okay. Any redirect, Mr. Friedman? I just have to ask formally.
No.
Okay. Ms. Leyba Tercero, thank you so much. I appreciate your testimony. As always, you're excused.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Friedman, would you please call your last witness?
Yes, our last witness will be Mr. Richard Martinez.
Mr. Martinez, would you raise your right hand, sir? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Martinez, do you have a copy of your direct testimony that you filed in this case known as Staff's Exhibit 2?
Yes, I do.
And would you just take a moment to glance it over and make sure it's a complete and accurate rendition of the one we filed on April 25th this year?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Do you have any corrections you would need to make to this direct testimony?
No, I do not, sir.
And if you were asked today at this hearing, the same questions in your direct testimony, would your answers remain the same or would they have changed?
My answers would remain the same.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I move for the admission of Mr. Richard Martinez's direct testimony known as Staff's Exhibit 2.
Any objection?
No
Hearing
objection.
none. Hearing none, Staff Exhibit 2 is admitted.
And we will pass the witness.
Ms. O'Brien, any questions for Mr. Martinez?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Good, thank you.
Is this really your first opportunity to testify as a witness for staff? Or have
Correct.
you done it? Okay. I appreciate your testimony as well, sir. I do have a question on page 8 of your testimony. You provide the opinion that staff believes that, and I'm paraphrasing, that the Monterey water system is currently safe and reliable. It's a safe and reliable water system and has been maintained over the years of MW, Monterey Water ownership. Were you aware of Commission Exhibits 1 and 2, the news release about the E. coli outbreak and the violations listing or sheet that Commission Exhibit 2 before I brought it to the attention of the parties?
Correct. And I'm also aware of each.
You were aware of it before?
So I have been in my review of the documents and the record. I'm also in review of the compliance that followed each violation.
Yes, right. Okay. But were you aware of, for instance, Commission Exhibit 2? Had you seen that before? Just
so
curious.
that one particular document I had not seen.
Okay. And that has a listing, a long listing, 9 pages long of violations. Does it change your opinion about whether it's a safe and reliable water system?
No, it does not.
Okay. I'm not questioning your opinion on it. I just was wondering, having seen it now, whether it changed it at all. But in your opinion, will the system benefit from the change in ownership and stewardship to New Mexico Water?
Yes, it will.
It will improve
Correct.
the safety and reliability.
Correct.
And I know you're an engineer and not a chemist, but chloridane, do you know whether that's a dangerous substance?
Well, so yes, I do. And my understanding that in addition to it being hydrophobic and attaches to the soil, has a life of 10 to 20 years, hasn't been used in a while, but it still can be produced but used and sold overseas. It's been replaced by another item that's diazepam. That's basically you can pick up at Home Depot, Lowe's, and just about anywhere. But that particular chloridane, it is found to be, when the conditions of the soil are saturated, it could seep down into the water table. But most of the time, the chloridane attaches itself to some soils, and over 10 to 20 years, it dissipates and evaporates.
And that was used back in the day for rodent infestations or as a pesticide?
Pesticide, correct.
Okay.
Probably followed the DDT,
Right.
era.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's all I have, Mr. Martinez. Thank you very much for your testimony as well. Mr. Friedman, any follow-up?
No follow-up.
Okay. Ms. Martinez, thank you. You're excused as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, that concludes the evidentiary phase of the hearing. As I indicated, only have one post-hearing submission required of the company, and that is the bench request one, the updated rate comparison that will show the impact of the proposed 8% rate increase. And that will be filed by the company, by the joint applicants by tomorrow, April 28th, 2023, and staff, as you just heard from Ms. Leyva Tercero, will provide its response by next Friday. What is next Friday? It's
May 5th.
May 5th, right. Are there any other matters to address before I close the hearing? New Mexico Water, Ms. O'Brien?
We have nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. Staff?
Staff has nothing.
Okay, thank you. Well, very well, with no other matters to address at this time. This matter is taken under advisement. The evidentiary record is closed, but for the bench request submission and staff's response. And this hearing is adjourned. Thank you all very much for your participation.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Wyman, Allison, thank you so much.